going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We are live. It's a wonderful Tuesday. It's disappointing. Fall is upon us, but there are some advantages. Football's here, and the season's changing brings a beautiful tide in the season. But, you know, that all being said, what's a wonderful Tuesday without some craziness? We've got some fun topics for you. First, we're going to be talking about how Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank is slamming this new rule that's allowing employees to ignore their bosses outside of work hours. That's going to have some, I think, polarizing opinions here on the show. And then secondly, there's an MSNBC opinion. Quote, watch the Paralympics, but reject the inspiration corn. Okay. And then finally, Elon Musk defies the X ban in Brazil by beaming the app from space satellites. Couldn't be more badass. That being said, I couldn't do it without my good friend and the co-host who's going to be taking on a larger role here at the Rethink Take, and I couldn't be more excited. Dougie Fresh. How you doing, Doug?
Oh, just fantastic. Can't wait for everyone else to leave you except for me, and you're stuck with me now.
I can appreciate that, Doug. See, that's why everybody in this world needs a Doug, right?
Absolutely.
But of course, you know, that being said, we couldn't do it without, for one of the, we got him for 2 more times, but one of the last times we got him lined up behind the keys, BC Mall. How we doing, Brian?
Doing well. Be Rizzle My Shizzle on TikTok. Yeah, I got some videos about to drop. I got a lead class I took. So climbing, it's pretty intense stuff. Let's get this show rocking.
All right, I should have done it a little bit earlier, but, you know, can't do it without the Pickle Gallery. So also joining us in the wing here, if you could bring them both in, we got Silent Destroyer and Rookie. How we doing today, guys?
Doing great. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. So while I got you guys on the screen, before we start diving into the topics, okay? In the past, we've talked about the folks that we kind of overlook. There's folks stuck in space. We have just left astronauts stranded in space. And breaking today, those NASA astronauts, a NASA astronaut at the International Space Station on Saturday reported hearing a strange noise coming from the Boeing Starliner spacecraft just days before it is set to leave the station and return to Earth on autopilot. The astronaut, Butch Wilmore, radioed Mission Control and had said, on an audio recording of the exchange, he says that the speakers that the Mission Control could hear through the speakers, there's this noise, and it's pulsating and emanating at steady intervals and can be heard through Wilmer's device. And so Mission Control confirms this. And what's crazy about this whole thing? Fox News Digital has reached out to Mission Control and Boeing to inquire if the source of the sound has been identified. Starliner is slated to undock from the International Space Station, empty, and attempt to return on autopilot with a touchdown in New Mexico desert. So, no, not bringing the folks. We're going to leave them there. Also, NASA decided it was too risky to bring back Wilmore and Sonny Williams until February. So the astronauts were originally slated for a week-long trip in early June, but the mission has been mired in problems after thruster failures and helium leaks. So Boeing had counted on the Starliner's first crew trip to revive the troubled spacecraft program after years of delays and ballooning costs, but the company has insisted the Starliner was safe based on the recent thruster tests in both space and on the ground. So, yeah, they're stuck there, and looks like they're going to be stuck there for a fat minute. What do you guys think?
I feel like this is another great example of the government should cut up the contract with Boeing and like just like
For
pick
real.
someone else or like have more competitive market so people are actually competing to produce the best equipment for everyone's safety, for planes, army, and space. You know, the Space Force is about to start. We can't start off with Boeing doing this. You know what I'm saying?
Right? I don't know, Silent. You got any thoughts?
Just when you thought Boeing couldn't embarrass themselves even further, it just gets worse and worse. I totally agree with what Rikis just said. Just rip out that contract.
Yeah,
let
just
Elon
rip
handle
up
it.
that contract.
Just let Elon handle it. At this point, like,
Dude,
it can't get any
real.
worse than this. It just can't, you know?
Doug, what were you explaining to me about the spacesuits before this? Speaking of Elon Musk,
Oh, I was reading that part of the issue too is like they're talking about sending them home on the SpaceX thing, but SpaceX went with like a completely new modern style spacesuit design, whereas Boeing went like the old style NASA. So like the plugs for air and that tie you in with the life support to the spacecraft, completely different. So even if they did hitch a ride back, their spacesuits wouldn't plug into the ship. So it was like, you know, saying that they've got to like make either 2 extra SpaceX ones or figure out how to get the Boeing suit to work if they're going to send them home in that.
wow. So that's part of the problem too, is if the technology continues to update, you either rely on more updated equipment to get you there, or you need to remanufacture the old outdated equipment just so you could get to the finish line, which the finish line is humans stuck in space. And how long are we going to get there, Dr. Hare? February from June. Man.
Wow.
And that's if we do it right. All right. So any other thoughts before we dive into today's episode? Because we got a lot
I've
lined
got
up.
a quick one.
Yes.
We should have never gotten rid of the space shuttle. Tried and true, proven method of transporting things into space. 2 accidents out of what? Hundreds of launches, fixed everyone, you know, whatever. And you can fit a bigger payload in the back of the space shuttle than you can in any of these things that they're sending up now.
So let me ask you this, Doug. Why do you think they did get rid of it? Is it because it's a giant tank of gas, like fuel?
They said it was because of money and whatnot, but then how much money did we spend on funding these new things that aren't working out? How much did we spend relying on Russia to send us into space for like a decade? Wouldn't have it's just been better to kind of work with what we had and was working instead of retiring it like a decade early?
Right. That's why it does seem foolish, especially if the excuse is going to be cost. Like if it's a safety thing, I could see where the hubris of new technology is like, well, we don't need a giant tub of gas. Like we could just do it this way.
But we've gone back to like the Apollo missions. We've gone back to sending people in a little pod into space. We went from a giant shuttle that could re-entry and everything and carry loads and do repairs to now we're sending people up back in a little trash can.
And why did we do that? Like to me, that just seems like a major inquiry.
Better get on the phone with NASA.
It's cost effective, you know. Everything is about cost.
Yeah,
At the end
well,
of the day, yeah.
they'd be so willing to tell us the truth, right? They're just chomping at the bit to keep it honest. All right.
CEOs want a bigger bonus at the end of the year. You gotta chop every little nitty gritty you can, and don't worry too much about safety.
Facts. Totally.
That's
Well,
what Boeing's been doing for a while now. That's true.
I mean,
Cutting corners and cutting costs, you know, for the short-term profit. And now they're paying the price 10, 20 years later.
well, and again, they look at it as, are we really paying the price? Like, here's the thing. The guy that owns the yacht and beach mansion, he actually hasn't lost anything in this. And in fact, he still continues to gain. Like as a family's father is still and mother is still stuck in space, this cat's still making it. And he's like, I guess I'm supposed to feel bad here. And I think that's our bigger problem is this is that balance, right? You don't want to go Marxist, but in a capitalist society, your lords and rulers are the rich, the money makers. And at the end of the day, those people are not ever going to care about you. So that's why they just keep floating.
Yeah.
but we ain't gonna forget you. So, Mr. Wilson, we got you. All right. For the first topic of the day, who dreams this crap up? Kevin O'Leary slams new rule that allows employees to ignore their bosses after hours. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one. Is your boss texting you after work? Do you get a please fix email while you're on vacation? In some countries, you can now simply ignore all of these notes once you're off the clock. Australia recently joined the ranks of countries like France, Spain, and Belgium by passing a right to disconnect law that has gone into effect this past August. This legislation allows employees to step away from work-related communications outside of their official working hours, ensuring that the personal time remains personal. Of course, the philosophy being, this is not time you're paying for, so this is not time you have right to. But Shark Tank personality and investor Kevin O'Leary is one of the outspoken critics of the legislation. This kind of stuff just makes me crazy. It's dumb. Who dreams this crap up? That's my real question, Kevin O'Leary said. And why would anybody propose such a stupid idea? He furthers in a Fox News interview. As an investor and an entrepreneur, O'Leary places great importance on the seamless operation of a business, even outside of regular working hours. He has voiced strong concerns about employers' ability to reach their employees in urgent situations, highlighting potential issues with the right to disconnect laws. Quote, what happens if you have an event in the office and it's closed? Or you have an emergency somewhere and you have to get a hold of them at 2 a.m. because it affects the job they are working on. I mean, again, remember what's paying your bills. So when asked whether he ever encounters employees who silence their phones outside of work, O'Leary didn't hesitate with his response. The next moment is, I just fire them. While O'Leary's criticism is rooted in the risk of not being able to contact staff during critical moments, proponents of the right to disconnect argue that such laws are essential for establishing clear boundaries between professional duties and personal well-being. In a statement about the new legislation, Australia's Minister of Employment and Workplace Relations, Murray Watt, said clocking off used to mean something in this country. It meant time with your kids, time with your friends, or just time to yourself to relax. Watt highlighted how technology has blurred the lines between work and personal life, leaving many Australians feeling pressured to stay connected to emails and calls even after their workday is over. He asserted that it should not be controversial that workers shouldn't be required to do unpaid overtime. While the U.S. doesn't have right to disconnect laws at the federal level, California made an attempt to introduce such legislation. Assembly Bill 2751, spearheaded by Assembly member Matt Henney, was designed to establish this right for employees across the Golden State. According to the Legislative Council's Digest, the bill would require a public or private employer to establish a workplace policy that provides employees the right to disconnect from communications from the employer during non-working hours, except as specified. Despite the potential impact of this legislation, it did not come to fruition. The bill was shelved for the 2024 legislative session, putting a temporary halt to the push for a formal right to disconnect in California. So with all of that being said, I flip it to you guys. First, Silent Ricky, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, for me, I'm good at disconnecting. Once I clock out, I don't bring my problems from work. I don't think about work. It only makes sense. You want the best from me when I'm on the clock. Let me have my free time. And it also goes into what the job entails. If you're like someone personal assistant, they always need you. That it depends what the job entails. But for me, that like put up tents and a manager of a liquor store. Once I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock. My boss can call me and say like, Ricky, I need you to like put out a stack of chairs so someone's about to come pick up. Cool, but every day, all the time, anytime you need me, I got like it would be like I need another job. Like I need my time. As you said, you was reporting, like there's a mental health aspect that goes into that. Like I can't let a company or corporation, no matter how big or small, run my life.
That's fair. Sion, what do you think?
Yeah, facts. I totally agree with Ricky. And the thing is, like, it's very simple. If you want me to answer my phone or emails after hours, pay me. That's it. I don't want you to give me extra money. Nothing. Just pay me. Pay me overtime, and I will answer an email or a phone call at 2 a.m. I don't mind it personally. But where it starts to get blurry is when you start to expect your employees to work for you off the clock and not pay them. That's where I think that should be illegal. And I think this law should pass, and I think it should become law so that employers don't abuse their employees. Because I know a lot of companies that do this. They keep you out, like, you know, in the office after hours, 2-3 hours after you're supposed to clock out. They don't pay you overtime. Like, one of the biggest thefts in North America, in the States and in Canada, is not car theft, it's not money theft, it's wage theft. And a big part of the wage theft is companies refusing to pay overtime. And it's a massive problem. These companies are getting away with millions of dollars every single quarter that they keep their employees after clock and after hours, and they don't pay them overtime. This needs to be law. It needs to be legislation. And I think it needs to be passed across the whole country, not just in the state of California.
And that is true, because I know students that come from a foreign country this year and they don't get overtime.
Mhm.
They work. They
Yeah.
don't get they don't get paid overtime. But Massachusetts have a very strict workers law, you know, and I tell them to complain, but they ain't doing it because they're like, oh, I'm only here for the summer. But their bosses don't give them overtime.
Yeah. It's been a known fact, right? Like I said, that like the biggest theft is wage theft. That's been a very known documented fact that a lot of companies abuse people, unfortunately, because we can't trust companies to let you just clock out. You know, that would be the ideal situation. But the reality is companies want to squeeze every single hour they can get out of you, even if that means calling you after hours and making sure that you get the job done. Where the reality is, for most people, most of these things that they call you after the clock can wait. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not a life or death situation. And unless it is, then yeah, sure, that's understandable, right? It all also depends on what kind of job you're working. But I think that whatever it is can just wait until the next day. Unless, if it's that dire, pay me. Pay me my overtime. I'll clock back in at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and I'll do the work for you. I don't mind.
Okay. With that being said, Doug, what is your position on this?
Well, you thought we were going to have some disagreement here, but I agree with them. Like,
I'll take you
I don't care
worry.
if there's a law, because it's also contract based. Like, your contract says if your salary, you're probably not getting overtime. That's in your contract. Like, that's how salary works. Salary also has a set time, but depending on your job, there might be situations where you are required to do stuff after hours. That's all. It's more contract based. So I think there needs to be a law. No, but in my position where I'm not obligated to work after those hours, and anything that they're emailing me can wait till the next day or when I'm back, I ain't doing that. But like, we have a tech director, we have DBAs, database administrators. There's a crash on the network. Well, they're going to have to hop on whatever time it is and take a look and work on it. That's their job. And that's what happens. That's their job. That's why they get paid what they pay. My dad was a treasurer for a school district. If a school alarm went off, he would get a phone call whatever time of day, wherever he was.
He didn't
vacation.
get paid overtime.
He didn't get paid for it, but he was also like the 13th person on the list. So if it made it all the way to him,
what about the guy who was first on the
answering.
list?
It's usually the superintendent, but we all know they're
and
lazy
did he get
as
paid
hell.
extra for picking up that call?
Probably not, but you know
No, he
what?
probably
Superintendents make enough money, so
there
that's
it
a whole
is.
other issue.
Okay.
But hold on. No, there's a timeout.
It's a good.
There's a timeout.
It's good
Superintendents
solve.
are usually sucky people.
That is true. All right, you have
Those
maintenance
are
guys
good.
like
Don't it?
house managers, house management teams, like people that manage houses, shit, property managers. They're on call. They get paid to be on call. You may not always get the call, but you are constant.
Well,
you get the
that's
pay.
a different gig entirely,
I
right?
just think it's all contract.
somebody
But you're-
that sells organs, right? Like somebody that helps administer organs for organ transplants for, like, you know, the Cleveland Clinic. They're on call, right? Like, a lady doesn't just get in a car crash to be an organ donor at a convenient time. But those obscure hours are into the contract. So, okay, I like you all. I think you all have good intention. I'd employ you, but I'm ready to take you all on in sheer disagreement.
Let me real quickly clarify.
Go ahead, please, Doug. Please,
I don't
please.
think there
Oh my
needs
God,
to be a
please.
law. Like, I know that's the conversation is about the law. I don't think there needs to be a law. I think
Thank
you
you.
need to check your contract.
Thank you. At least Doug is the only
But I'm not going
non-communist
to answer the phone
on your
after
side.
work. I'm not answering the phone, though.
Well, then I'm not calling you, and then don't be surprised when I'm not signing your paycheck. That's okay.
But
That's
it's in my
okay.
contract. I don't
So
work overtime.
listen. Kevin O'Leary can take on the role of, or the position that I'm going to look at a cat and say, you're fired. The second that's your approach to this role, I'm going to say you're fired. That person that gets fired is going to find another place in this earth. Like, they will find a role in our society. It isn't that they're thrown away. They're just done with Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary is looking for a specific type of role. You could fill those shoes or you could not. That's your choice. And where you don't, someone else will. Now, going through it here. The biggest position that I can respect is someone like Ricky's. I'm a manager at a liquor store. And this is going back to the title of the YouTube episode today, or wherever you're watching us, because we're streaming all over the world. If you watch us, right, wherever you're at, the title, the question begs, do you want a job or do you want a career? Because if the end-all career profession is, I don't want to just manage this liquor store. One day I'm going to own it. And then the next day I'm going to own chains of it. Like, if that's the path you're taking, then yeah, you're going to have to put in a little extra time. Like, you got to socially insert yourself in a way that you are taking the reins from whoever's above you. But if this is just a 9 to 5, like, really my heart and soul is I want to be a musician, or I'm going to one day I'm going to go to architect school and I'm going to go down that road. I'm just not there yet. Then yeah, oh my God, trust me. When I was selling phones at Sprint, you weren't catching me for a minute outside of what you paid for. But let me tell you, when I graduated law school and was given a gift of being this judge's personal bailiff, oh my God, the free hours you give. And at the same time, that's on balance with anybody that does like an internship. That's what an internship is.
You're basically a working slave.
And so you then got to ask yourself, these extra hours that are going unpaid, are they compounding interest for a future payment, which would be, I don't know, a total salary that puts to rest any of my concerns, right? Now I've settled into my niche and I found my way, but that's no shortage of me being stepped on and taken advantage of in many positions on its way. So that's a cost benefit analysis, right? I could not answer for my boss or whoever's in charge of me right now, but then I'm not reliable to them. If I'm trying to, and this comes back to advice I've given people within my professional space as well. There's a truth here. When people come to you after work and they're like, hey, we're all going to the burger spot to get something to eat. You want to come? If you're like, no, I got to go back to my wife. My wife won't let me do anything. Like, I got to get going. But like, at some point, you got to look at your wife and be like, honey, this isn't just me getting a burger. This is me investing in our future. You see it as a burger. You see it as getting a drink after work. This is an investment. And if you can't remove yourself from the social game this really is, then you're always going to take the back seat to the person that's always reaching for the reins, the person that's always trying to gain more, that's always trying to step over you. So when you say, okay, we're going to have a dialogue about wage theft, okay, not paying overtime. This goes back to, there's a law against that. Like, that is not happening with any unions. But also, there are laws forbidding, if you have contracted for overtime, you get that overtime. In a world where there isn't overtime, you're a salary worker. Do you know how much my dad would love to look at his boss and go, these aren't the hours. But really, this is how employment works. You either sell an hour or you sell a year. And if you sell your year, man, it's going to be a lot more enticing. That salary total written down on a whole piece is going to look a lot juicier. But at the same time, it's going to require a significant more commitment. So some people may want to just find that delicate balance of comfort and commitment where, you know what, I found my niche. This is a job. I don't love it. I look forward to the 6-pack every Friday because that's just what I live for. I'm in a hamster wheel and it's giving me just enough to live, but I'm comfortable and I'm not upset. And guess what? There is not to belittle the admiration that lifestyle takes on. We need those people. Those people are important for a society, but also that just isn't enough for others. And for some, if you are going to sit here and scroll through Instagram and see Lamborghinis and boats that you think are yours, but think you get to turn off, there's no turn off. Guess what? There's no turnoff. The hard reality too, in a world where Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Gary V are never going to turn off, they're going to beat you every time. So you either need to compete in that realm or be comfortable where you're at. I appreciate them wanting to squeeze every minute out of you, but that doesn't feel painful if it's a passion of yours. If this is your passion, like if there was an entity, if the Daily Wire came here right now and was like, hey, we are going to totally take advantage of you, but I'm doing the rethink tank for them. Oh my God. Out of the however many hours I could give you in a week, I'd find ways to steal more. Like, oh my God. But that's because it's what I want more than anything. If I was selling cell phones for you in the middle of insanity town, you couldn't take more time from it. Like I would be looking for every minute to get out, every break. I wouldn't miss it by the second. So also a lot of this has to do with passion. It doesn't feel like squeezing when it's something that you're willing to give everything anyway. And okay, as Doug has presented, I think we could all agree this is all contract based. And when you sign up to work for somebody and they hand you an employee manual and you go, thanks, and you think this is only going to matter to you when you need to look up, I don't know, turning in your coworker or, what's the late policy? Like, no, you should read that because I don't think you understand what you're signing up for. And finally, the last piece that I have that was kind of tossed around a lot by the people around here is it can wait till the next day. If it can wait till the next day, they shouldn't be calling you, period. That should be, but that comes from a piece of respect, right? Like my employer, I do so much from them. And that's why, again, it's paid off in its own right. They wouldn't take advantage of me because truthfully, they've already done so. They've already taken so much advantage of me that they need to cut me a break. Whereas, and it's because I make myself overly available. I let you do that because if I just take the brunt now, I can reap the benefits down in the future. But if it can't wait till tomorrow, that's where the cream rises from the crop, folks. Like, do you want to be the worker that shows up every day or you hop in line at your cubicle or whatever, you are reliable and you catch a paycheck, or do you want to steer this bitch? That's where I think it comes down to. And if that's a role you want to continue to become too big for your britches and make yourself continuously valuable, you should be sitting there as you've got your thumb up your ass scrolling TikTok. You should be praying that something happens to your boss tonight that they need. And when they need, they think you. And you're so reliable that you deliver for them. So I'm sorry. I think the Kevin O'Leary position is the difference between being the billionaire that owns all the people's hours or being one of the many that sells your hours to the few. What are all your thoughts?
It goes into what you're saying, though. It depends what the person wants, first and foremost. Depends what they want. Like, as I said, if my boss called me right now to put something outside, I'm gonna go downstairs and put it outside. It's gonna take less than 5 minutes. It's nothing. You know what I mean? But if you're in a job where it's constant pressure, you ain't trying to move up the corporate ladder, you're happy where you're at, you shouldn't be forced to be answering calls once you clock out. And I think we're saying the same thing. Like, it depends what the work is. You signed up for it, so you should make sure what you signed up for is what you want. Like, if the Daily Wire come to us right now and say, yo, move to Hollywood, and one of us like, yeah, I don't know, he needs to go. I'm gone. I'm there. I don't care if I have to sleep on the ground for a whole year. There's an end goal. But once you leave that studio and everything, yeah, we can go over ideas, there's stuff, but ain't nothing gonna be really dire that we need to go back to the studio and reshoot. You know what I mean? So
Totally.
it's like perspective, but it doesn't need to be a law. For it to make a law, it's gonna hinder a lot of people and like put a cap on stuff. Like, it doesn't need to be. This is government overreach, Doug.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just be smart and read your contract. And like Alex said, read the handbook.
Right.
My handbook used to be, they actually printed you out the book and gave it to you when I started.
And made you
now
sign it
online on the HR website, and you can access it anytime, anywhere, from any device. So like, there's no excuse if you don't know the rules. Like before, it's like, oh, I lost the book you gave me. Not anymore. We put it online.
again, like, that's where the injustice of this dialogue comes in. Like, whose employee handbook is really sneaking in the human centipad? You know what I mean? Like, nothing in there is so, like, it's all pretty boilerplate. Show up on time. Commit yourself. Here, we got Nalette here. My boss is a program director, and she gets salary pay, and also she is always on call for the most weekends. See, she does not get paid for that, only gets paid for the 40. Again, it's a 40-hour work week, but you should be satisfied with that. The salary at a 40-hour work week pay should be enough to where, honestly, I could give you a half hour or whatever outside of work. It should be enough to where if I got to, because here's what's happened to me. We need a bind over. There's a guy in jail and he's got to go and whatever. And this needs to happen right now. And your employee, for the person I'm in charge of, forgot to send it out. I have to be the one hindered, get in my car and go get them and go get this document to the police station or whatever. So the employee that made the mistake isn't burdened. I am. They're still at home. But guess what? They're not really paid enough to care. They're not paid enough to be there. Now, it's my responsibility the next day to correct that behavior. And I mean, hell, I don't want to have to go back to work the next time outside of hours. So obviously I'm motivated in making sure they don't make that mistake again. But that means I need to be a better leader. I need to be a better manager. I got to be more involved and make sure that it all feeds off of itself. But if I'm Kevin O'Leary and I'm looking for someone, and again, passion, we're circling the same drain. The question then begs, do you just want to be the person clocking in and clocking out? Or are you trying to take the reins? The more the more responsibility you want to take. If this is your trajectory, then you're going to want to insert yourself in a higher role. When I was making light of selling phones at Sprint, that just wasn't my cup of tea. You know, people would come in so irate. Sprint service sucks. And I'm like, I know, dude. I have AT&T. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know why you're here either. And
it's the reason they got bought by someone.
And yet, Sprint's still going.
But it's part of, like, I think it's AT&T now or something.
Or maybe
T-Mobile?
it is Verizon. It's one of them.
T-Mobile, yeah.
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile, yeah.
See,
T-Mobile.
There you go. But they kept its name to keep it cute, whatever. That all being said, there were people at Sprint that were working their tail off selling phones, and this was their niche. It's like, hey, everybody's got their cup of tea. And where I was showing up late or, you know, tired, unmotivated, whatever the case may be, not missing a minute for lunch, There were people pulling the extra hours, staying there real late, counting the money, counting the inventory. Then they became the manager. Then they went up into corporate. Like, it depends on your passion and how. Look at somebody at McDonald's. There is somebody there that's just dragging ass and probably not going to be there tomorrow. Probably not much longevity. And then there's someone there that doesn't miss a minute. And then one day they'll be the manager. And then and that's just how it goes. So I guess the title and theme of the topic just can't be universal rules where it's like, yeah, we need blanket laws that disrupt that. Because here's what I'm saying. Because somebody doesn't want to take a phone call at Sherwin-Williams Paint, and I don't want to take a phone call outside of those hours, you shouldn't forbid some go-getter law assistant at some law firm. Like, if you make a law that forbids this, then some lawyer can't, take some young lawyer can't be that role for their employer. Like, call me anytime, I'm available. Because then it's like, no, we have to pay you for every minute, and I'm not gonna make that phone call because
the California law said as specified, though. So, like, if you
exactly,
they'll just have to specify in your contract that you could be on call.
Right. Well,
that's
but again,
it literally said
about,
as specified it.
Maybe I love that little scapegoat they slipped in there. But the question then begs, how can that be written out? Can it simply just be you are responsible for taking phone calls outside of work?
It would be in the company's policy handbook and in your contract. That the law that when you were reading it, I was listening to it, and it says it will require the companies to put a policy in their company policy book, and it specifically mentioned like not having to take calls as specified. So between the policy, your contract, and what's as specified, but how specific does it have to be? Can it be the company? Can it be just the catch-all of you are going to be expected to accept calls outside of work hours? Or do I need to indicate how much we're going to pay you per minute on a phone call? Like, at some point, the more microscopic or macroscopic you take this, it gets ridiculous. I don't know. Silent, Ricky, rapid thoughts. Let's bring this play to an end.
See, everything you just said is like nice and it sounds good. But the reality is there's a lot of shitty leaders and shitty bosses that start to abuse their employees and start to do that frequently.
But then you should leave.
Then, right. And the question becomes like, it depends on like what Ricky said, like, what's your objective at that job? Like, do you want to stay there for a while? Do you want to be there? Do you want to like become the owner, the manager? Like, it depends on like why. And just like the title says, right? Like, it depends on why you even took this job in the first place, right? Yeah. Then where it becomes like, is this an expectation? Like, did I sign up for this? That's like what Doug said. Like, that's where the contracts come in, right? And as we know, even if this does become a law, it still doesn't mean that companies are going to follow it because corporations are not people and laws don't apply to them, right? So we all already know this. So I think at the end of the day, it all just depends on the job and what it is really, and what you would like out of that job. Like, are you like, just like you said, like, are you taking this job to just take a paycheck, or are you taking this job because you eventually want to own the whole store? Or maybe you want to be the manager of the store, It all depends on like your end goal of it. But unfortunately, there will always just be shitty leaders that will take advantage of, oh, I should have told him to do this at 3 p.m. when he was on the clock, but I forgot. So now he has to come in at 8 o'clock and do it, or whatever things like that a lot of bad managers just tend to mess up. And then, it's like, now we have to put up a fire after work because I totally forgot to tell you to do it at 3 or at 2,
I did like being an hourly employee because when I was a manager of the pro shop, the Browns pro shop, I like sometimes had to stay late or come in early to do stuff, or I'd be the only one working on the weekend because no one else is there and it's just me. And they'd call me and be like, hey, so-and-so can't make it this tomorrow. Can you make it? Did all the time because I was a manager, but I was still hourly. So, okay, you need me there at 8, but my day doesn't start till 10. Clock in at 8. Oh, I'm usually done at 5 and leave at 5:30 after counting the money. Well, I needed to stay till 6 or 6:15. Like, I just never clocked out. And they just paid me for it. And then I ended up getting overtime, and I was still a manager, but that's the difference between the salary and the hourly. You
Exactly.
like, I was never guaranteed money, so I was willing to work for that extra money.
Oh yeah.
But like,
and
I also had
overtime
no
is
problem.
sweet.
Yeah. Hourly is where I think
Yeah.
overtime really, like, when you're a salary, you shouldn't even be expecting overtime. You're
Right.
not going to get it.
Well, yeah, you're not gonna get it.
I had a homie that just got the promotion to run a whole manager department of the in the hotel, and he hated it because he's getting email all times of the night, and he's like, "Yo, I'm off the clock already. The salary y'all give me, it don't even equate to be off the clock, and you're to be responding all this every time of the day, every time of the hour." So he just give it up. He just said, "Fuck that. I don't want it," and just went back to hourly work, and it been better for him. So it depends on the person and what they want. You know what I mean? And they should also know what the job entails.
Oh yeah. I think you guys all raise great points. And when I shout to silent, you should just leave then. If they're taking advantage of you, you're sucking every minute, you got these problems, you just leave. It's not lost on me how that's easier said than done. I can totally respect how, like, you can have a market collusion and a field can kind of stronghold or monopolize where salaries are capped at or held, or how they take advantage of you in the market. And I mean, we've talked about before, hotels in foreign countries, they have non-compete clauses. If you work at one hotel, you can't leave and work at another. So you're kind of just stuck in this hotel. It is not lost on me that is a severe element to a total free market. And that's why, oversight and intervention is necessary. How limited that is why we have these conversations. But when you look at something like this, if you're an hourly person and not salary, you're hourly or you're contracted hourly and you're owed salary and you're not getting that, contact your local lawyer. Like, that's illegal, that can't happen. So that really can't be an element to this conversation. That's a problem. That's kind of being like, well, I don't like it when people put pew-pews in my face. It's like, well, yeah, that's not allowed either. It's kind of like we can't use that as an argument. But then when it comes to salary, it means it's contract based. And so it either is enough to shut you up and deal with taking a phone call, or it's a stepping stone to hopefully the future salary that's going to make you shut up and comfortable with taking the phone call. If you want to own Tesla or be the founder of what is it, the weird company or whatever it is?
Boring company.
The boring company.
Yeah.
You are inevitably going to have to work waking hours beyond everybody else. So if you want to be the head honcho, you got to be willing to put in those hours. If you want to climb to the top, you got to be willing to take it on the chin and sometimes lose, not always get fair compensation, but you got to have a wherewithal. You got to have a mind to where this is a future investment, compounding interest to a salary that will find me in the future. You have to have the wherewithal and knowledge to recognize that you are not being taken advantage of. Unfortunately, there's really good grifters out here and, snake salesmen. And so most of the time, if you don't have an instinct for it, it's not for you. And that's why being one of the worker bees that makes this awesome hive hum is just as important. So finding your niche. I had this lady who made my sub today, this old lady, you could tell she's been doing it forever. She loves what she does. She makes a comfortable living, and there is nothing to take away from the admiration and the admiration for her aspiration, right? Like, this is where she's found her niche. She loves it, and the community loves her for it. Is she ever going to be on a yacht? No. But also, she hasn't put in socially the investment into our community that really should get her the yacht, right? Like, I think the guy that has given, our dads and moms and grandmas the medication to survive to tomorrow, maybe those guys should have it, right? So, or you know, the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, whoever, the people around you that make your society tick. It is pretty, you know, is it off balance? Kind of. Yeah. I mean, come on, we could probably pay teachers more, but for the most part, it's all kind of balanced where it should be. So it's up to you to evaluate if it's worth it. But I think the catch-all, make laws that forbode these phone calls or outside hour, you know, requests is asinine, because that should be what you strive for once you find your passion. Doug, wrapping thought.
I feel like you need to pay me if you want me to come next Tuesday. That's my wrapping thought. I feel like I don't get paid enough.
Guess we don't have Doug either. It's just gonna be me, folks. We'll see you. All right, what are your wrapping thoughts?
Yeah, you guys said it really well. I don't think there should be a law in place that says what a company should make like their policy about, unless if it's like I like the clause that says, like, you know, gives a company an out and a way to enforce beyond the law. But for salary, I think if it's not directly specified in the contract, you're going above and beyond a job that is asked of you that isn't in your contract, it isn't part of your normal thing, or it's just a really crappy, hard imposition, and it's well known that this isn't exactly what I signed up for. Maybe there's some overtime or compensation they can do with extra PTO or time and a half or something along those lines.
So this next topic is an interesting one. The topic title reads, an MSNBC opinion is watch the Paralympics but reject the inspiration corn. All right, I want all of the people that are going to be discussing this with me right now to take note of the code word we're using here. We're talking about a bunch of vegetables, and the people at home know what we're talking about. Watch the Paralympics, but reject the inspiration corn. I flip it to you, Brian. What were your thoughts on what this was?
I've never heard of inspirational corn. I only think of one thing, and it's, I mean, in this title, I think it's special ed corn. Is that politically correct? I don't know.
Well,
trying to be.
It sounds so wrong.
Well, this is what's so crazy about this. All right, this is why this needed to be a topic in and of itself for all of us. Like, Brian literally walks in the studio as we're getting ready, and he's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Dude, we gotta wait until we go live, because I want your reaction and everybody else's reaction to be caught with this, because you read it and you're like, what could this potentially mean?" With the athletes proceeding down the Paris's Paralympics, the cobblestone thoroughfare temporarily topped with asphalt to increase accessibility. The 2024 Paralympics kicked off in spectacular fashion. Visibility will be higher than it's ever been. One hopes this unprecedented media attention helps sports featuring disabled athletes become more mainstream. Unfortunately, as any sports fan knows, the more popular a sport becomes, the more trash opinions abound. As disabled athletes become more visible, non-disabled people who are watching must resist the impulse to chalk up the performance as more inspiring than those from other athletes. The late disability rights advocate Stella Young articulated the trouble with so-called inspiration corn in an April 2014 TED Talk. She showed images of people with disabilities playing sports alongside unhelpful captions such as, "The only disability is a bad attitude. Your excuse is invalid," or "Before you quit, try." Young used the word corn intentionally because she said that images of disabled people, like pornography, can be used to objectify one group of people for the pleasure of another group of people. Quote, "The purpose of these images is to inspire you, to motivate you, she said, so that we can look at them and think, well, however bad my life is, it could be worse. It could be that person. If that's the reason people are watching the Paralympics, it would be better if they watched something else. Watching the games for inspiration and not the enjoyment that comes with watching athletes compete turns the athletes in the games into a medium to make non-disabled people feel better about themselves. Also, simply deeming Paralympians inspiring diminishes their real achievements. Like every other athlete, they put in the years of work to reach this stage in their career. Reducing them to symbols of inspiration is condescending and patronizing. Like, come here, break. The coverage of disabled athletes and the way that viewers respond to that coverage needs to match what happens when non-disabled athletes are playing. That we don't watch the U.S. women's national team in soccer and say how inspiring it is that women can play soccer. We watch because the American women are good and play soccer better than the guys. Okay, now Yahoo News. Reading this article, that was a lie. Anyway, the popularity of women's basketball is exploding, in part because people see Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese as outstanding basketball players and not as symbols of what girls can accomplish if they don't give up. Wait, no, that is... You can't tell me that's what... Okay, fine, wrap it up here. The Paralympics offers a major opportunity for disabled athletes. Broadcasting the games is not an act of charity. It's a recognition of the best athletes in the world competing against one another, makes for compelling television. Disabled athletes aren't competing to impress or inspire you. They're competing for the gold. This was written by Eric Garcia at Yahoo News. So really, I just want to have a talk about this article and kind of the social implications it mirrors of our society currently. So before I kind of give my dialogue on it, what are your thoughts?
I think that article is bullshit because I love golf, but we both know I suck. And so I think it is inspirational to see a handicapped person
Just
go out there
out-drive
and
Doug.
smash the ball 200 yards further than I could ever hit it. That's inspirational to me. Like, part of the reason I suck is like I've broken this, shattered this wrist, and I've torn my knee. And so like it kind of has thrown off everything for me. I can see a dude in worse shape than me hit the ball better and straighter than me. I think that's great.
Doug, when has being an inspiration been a negative?
Yeah, that's
It's crazy to me. They're like, God damn it, don't use me as something to compel you for standards and goals. It's like, what? Do you want me to spit on? Okay, there was a time where they'd be like, as they walked by you, do you want me to spit on you or do you want me to raise you like an idol? Don't idolize me. I'm a bitch. What are you? What? I'm so lost. And I just can't figure. It's kind of like call me an it, they wait. It's like you call them that and then they're like, what are you saying? I'm something different. I can't win. What do you want to be? Okay. Pickle Gallery, what are your thoughts before I need to ground myself?
Can I
Yeah,
get in on this real
please,
quick?
please.
I misspoke earlier. I didn't mean to say special ed. I meant to say disabled. So sorry.
Oh
to
my
all the
God.
disabled.
You're terrible,
people out
Brian.
there. Yeah,
You're going to
go
hell.
on.
So I'm going to be honest with you. The Rethink Tank takes these things so serious that, and we preserve the safe space for all of those disenfranchised, that I don't want any of you to be surprised when you don't see Brian in a week or two. When Brian is gone, no, we don't take this shit lightly.
Yeah, okay, again, some
I'm gonna
B
miss you,
smalls,
Brian.
man.
He's going to be gone. He's going to be gone, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Pickle Gallery, what are your thoughts?
Listen, I posted something on my Instagram the other day, man. Whatever the article is, BS, okay? They're trying to create a narrative out of something that they even, like, no one even went there. You know what I mean? Maybe they went there in their sick mind, and they're objectifying all the athletes by looking at them sexually.
By looking at him. What are you
Sexually,
doing? Looking
you
at
know? Look at all sexually and stuff.
But, like, again,
Like,
dude, okay, I'm
someone
supposed to
without
pretend-
one arm,
Yes,
you'd be
please.
like, ooh, it like turns them on, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe it was they're putting their mindset on everyone else. But I have friends that don't know how to swim, and I just saw a guy with no arms came in second, bro. He was kicking, dog, and I had to send it to all of them.
That's
And
what
I was like, "What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing?"
Yeah, if that dude can swim and win, your friends have no excuse, Ricky.
And bro, they're from Jamaica, bro. That makes it like, you know what I mean? Like, what are
guys are
y'all
an
doing?
island.
Like,
That's
you
even
gotta
worse
do
if
better.
you don't know
Yeah,
how
you
to
should
swim.
definitely be able to swim when you're on an island. Especially like the nicest, funnest island.
What
with the
happens
best
when your
beaches.
island gets swallowed up by rising sea
So many
tides,
beautiful
man?
beaches.
So
They
my
dead.
homie, he never wanted to swim before. He's just like, I'm not going on a boat. That's it. When he saw that, he's like, I gotta take the bitch out of me. I needed to go and learn how to swim. Like, what am I doing? So whoever wrote that article is just on a whole different spectrum.
Oh, for sure.
What are you trying to say? Whole other spectrum.
Specify spectrum.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you put these Paralympic athletes and put them on OnlyFans when no one was even thinking about that? Dude. No one was thinking about that. Like, I don't know.
I don't know how we got from Paralympic Olympics to OnlyFans. I missed that jump.
Brian, were you going to say something?
Nope.
So, okay. Silent, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that article is just as Ricky said, they're trying to make something out of nothing. And it's like, at the end of the day, does the reason why the person or people are watching the Olympics matter? As long as they're watching, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what the Olympic cares about, right? The viewership, the numbers. You know, if you're watching to laugh at the person or to get inspired by the person or you're turned on by the person or whatever, like, who cares? You're still watching.
Hold on.
Right?
What do you watch things for? Okay. I'm either watching you for horror. Ah! That's what I see you run into. Ah! Okay, I don't think you want that. Okay, so we don't want you don't want me to be scared by the entertainment. What else could it be? You definitely don't want me laughing. If you want this to be comedy, no. So we don't want this to be comedy. We don't want that. Inspirational. Okay, now that's not PC. Now that makes you a victim. Okay. What do we watch for then? Am I supposed to just sit there like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. As the guy with no hands shoots a bow, I feel nothing. Like, one, that's so removed from the human experience. Like, could we become more alien? But then also, like, it's got to be something. And we really don't want you policing what it is. We really don't want you to tell us what it should be. So let's just be happy. Like Silent said, they're feeling something and they're turning it on. It just blows my mind. If anything, the one thing you'd want them to feel would be, I don't know, inspired. Because the truth is, you are overcoming something. Like, watching Doug hit a golf ball. Did you know it's atrocious, but it doesn't hurt him? Crazy. He's just not good at it, but it doesn't hurt him. Imagine somebody, like, I'm sitting there waiting for the USC LSU game to start this weekend. I'm sitting at a bar with a friend, and there is a guy that looks pretty normal shooting a bow at the Paralympics. Then there's a cat with no hands, and he's doing it with his feet. The dude took away the win. And imagine if just grabbing the club, like back to the Doug analogy, he's just not that good at it, but imagine it being so much more of a feat than, like, you know, I'm not great at golf. I couldn't compete in like a novice tournament, but I could beat most of my friends. Okay, so I'm just a guy that plays golf. I'm not great and I'm not bad. I'm a guy that plays golf. For me, holding a club doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. If you could do better than me, if not as good as me, and everything is stacked against you, You don't have the appendages for this. You are physically, it's like running with a weight vest of pain. You're pushing through some wall of adversity that I don't even have to face to grab the club or to grab the bow or to get on the starting line, whatever it might be. Or truthfully, even looking at the guy that just broke a world record running, but is mentally handicapped. Okay, why wasn't he able to do that in the regular Olympics then? If like he just broke a world record, but is only mentally handicapped, and again is now within the realm of the people that aren't handicapped, why is he over? Because even things we can't see are making it difficult for him to be in a position to where he's not competing in this tournament. And so I just am flabbergasted that we've allowed this PC world of safe spaces get so extreme that the one thing you would watch the Paralympics for, like anybody with a moral compass would say, the one thing you should ever listen. Okay, I'm gonna crucify myself here. There was a guy with no arm. Oh, he won. That guy, he won. When he won, no arms, jumped, and I let out a little chuckle because it just looks so abnormal from anything I've ever seen before. Okay? Totally insane. And my friend's like, you are the worst. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And it was actually like if you took a little hammer and hit my knee, it was like just a knee-jerk reaction. It was just something so removed from anything I've seen on mute playing at a bar. Like, whoa.
You don't see that every day. That's true.
Right?
You see that once every 4 years.
Even if you have a strong moral compass and you even let out a very human slip up, whether you acknowledge that or not, we should all agree the thing you should be watching it for is the inspiration. We would lie to ourselves and be like, I didn't laugh. I didn't do that. There was not a single frame on that entire thing that made me laugh. And okay, that's a very human, healthy lie to perpetuate. We should be doing that for the sake of empathy and caring about strangers around us, but also in a very real dialogue and uncomfortable conversations that you'll find here. Truth is, we got to acknowledge, yeah, that's also natural. So the real question is, do you want these kids catching a paycheck, period? Because if you're going to continue to demonize why they're turning on the television, even when it's healthy, folks are just going to stop turning on the television. I wouldn't care enough. All right, wrapping thoughts, guys.
Look, if you laugh at, like, people can laugh. If you see something, you're like, what the, and chuckle, like, how is he doing this? Cool. Like, it goes to the inspiration, like, you're at awe. Like, how is this? And I can't even do this. And I got all my faculties together, But if you're laughing to be an asshole, it's kind of a reflection on yourself than more on it of the athlete. You know what I mean? So I'm just sticking to whoever wrote that article need to stop. Yeah, this is why Yahoo is failing. Eric Garcia, this is what Yahoo is failing. Okay, they need, like,
Yahoo has failed, my friend,
and they ain't gonna get out of the hole with Eric Garcia. They need to do something better. Okay. There's more shit in the world you could have wrote about other than corn and the Paralympics. It ain't going together, bro. Like, that should even be a correlation.
Exactly. The knee-jerk reaction that article title instills, where it's like, don't get inspired by them to what, like, watching this shouldn't inspire that. You're kind of like, you know what you're, and again, it's clickbait. We all know. Sion, what are your wrapping thoughts?
Honestly, yeah, that article is just clickbait. Clearly, it's just made to spark an outrage and just making something out of nothing. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it really doesn't matter why you're watching the Olympics, as long as you're watching it. Because the more you watch it, the more they'll do it in the next 4 years, bigger, better. And more sponsors, more events, more sports added. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what your reason is to watch the Olympics. Just by you watching it, you're supporting it, So if you don't want to see it, Don't watch it. It's very simple.
Right.
You know?
Totally. Dougie, what are your rapping thoughts?
That article's a bunch of hooey. That's my rapping thought.
I have a
How can
question.
you not be inspired by these people? I mean,
Exactly.
That's what, so the young kid with the same disability as someone competing, like they shouldn't be inspired. Like,
Right.
yeah.
It should cause more backlash than it ever will. It perpetuates the continuous drum of victim mentality, right? Like wherever you can find it, we will justify it for you. So and so then it just becomes a competition of victim tokens. Like we're just trying to collect as many victim tokens as we can. I'm now not a victim because I don't have arms. Now I'm a victim because you want to be like me or you're inspired by me. What do you want? Like I'm just and here's the sadder part and this is why the article itself, bringing it back to the center point that we're revolving around the smoke and mirrors Eric Garcia, the author, created. But the truth is why this was picked as a topic to begin with is the topic is what the media does and what they've become, right? So here was something created strictly out of clickbait. Eric Garcia has no remorse. This guy's catching a check. And actually, this is just part of the quota, baby. It's part of my salary, touching back to the last topic, that I just need to start like funneling these bad boys out. And if I got to do it in such a way that I pander to one half of the politics, but also can antagonize readers in such a way that it increases unnecessary clicks. And what we need to acknowledge and what needs to be highlighted as is in the blind pursuit for maximizing clicks at any cost, what is sometimes a cost? What is the side benefit or problems that arise out of that? And one of the things you're finding is here is a disenfranchised group, handicapped people that find themselves in the Paralympics, people that look at the political figures that are praised that created the Paralympics, created a space for them to have respect and compete amongst and on a world stage. And so for a disenfranchised group's pursuit to be, we want to be seen and respected. Like, it's kind of like, look at like gay folks. At first, they just wanted to be married. Now, like, we'd like to be kind of respected and praised within your community, right? Like, imagine looking at a group and they're like, we just want to stop being disenfranchised and belittled by your society. And we go, we'll do you one better. We're going to write books about you. We're going to idolize you. We're going to make monuments about you. We're going to put classes on about you, TED Talks, Netflix docs. And they go, oh, no, that's too much. And actually that disenfranchises me further. It's like, oh my God, I can't win. So one, we all know that's illogical, right? So Eric Garcia is speaking for the disenfranchised that would like a Netflix documentary, that would like to have, be finding themselves in the school classroom, that would be finding themselves in a place of idolization. So you're speaking for them, saying, kind of like, I don't know, Chief Wahoo, you said that these folks, I'm telling you as a white guy, they're offended. And they're like, wait, everybody's forgetting about us. We don't exist anymore. We're not offended. So we need to stop letting assholes like Eric Garcia speak on the behalf of the disenfranchised. The unfortunate part is you want to look at then the disenfranchised and be like, this is now your obligation. You got to speak out against them and say, you don't take the carrot, the easy cheese on the hook. And we know the social currency of being a victim. Don't jump at it. Dispel being a victim for the sake of what you're fighting for. The unfortunate part is this disenfranchised group is so disenfranchised just in this one topic that like they really can't do that on their own behalf. It's pretty easy for them to be taken advantage of by the caretakers or the advocates around them. So, that's why conversations like this are so important. Brian, wrapping thoughts.
I think Eric Garcia is paid by big agriculture, the corn industry. He's going to get a percentage of how many times this gets a search on inspirational corn this week. So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Or is he just being corny?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you got to laugh from someone.
Too much corn. All right, let's dive into this last topic here. Okay, so wrapping up today's episode, Elon Musk defies the X ban in Brazil by beaming the application from space satellites. Elon Musk has found a way to bypass a ban on his social media firm X in Brazil by allowing people in the country to access the app through his satellite internet provider Starlink. Brazil's Supreme Court voted on Monday to uphold a ban on X that was introduced last week by Justice Alexandra de Moraes after the company failed to follow a court order to appoint a new legal representative in the country. Mr. Musk criticized the ruling, claiming that Judge Moraes was a dictator who should be impeached for violating freedom of speech. The new law forces internet service providers in the country to implement an immediate, complete, and comprehensive ban of X, or face legal and financial ramifications. Starlink has not complied with the court order, resulting in the network's bank accounts in Brazil being frozen, preventing the company from processing financial transactions. Quote, the order is based on an unfounded determination that Starlink should be responsible for the fines levied unconstitutionally against X, unquote, which was Starlink posted on X last week. Quote again, it was issued on secret and without affording Starlink any of the due process of law guaranteed by the Constitution of Brazil. We intend to address the matter legally. We are proud of the impact Starlink is making in communities across the country, and the Starlink team is doing everything possible to ensure their service is not interrupted. Mr. Musk claimed the freezing of Starlink's bank accounts was illegal and pledged to provide free internet access to its Brazilian customers while the accounts remain blocked. Under the court ruling, any X users who access the platform's apps or website through Starlink or virtual private networks face a fine of up to 50,000 reais or 6,700 euros. So that all being said, this is an interesting position because once again, you have a billionaire strong enough to kind of compete in the world arena like a country nation of its own. Like this comes back to buying Twitter. It's like, all right, well, if you're just going to police what we're going to say, then I'm just going to own the public square. So kind of like, all right, if you're going to silence people from being able to access the public square, I own the space waves. Like the nice thing about being a billionaire and having a income or net value higher than a country's GDP is you could go, all the things floating in space, all that metal trash that makes the world tick, or at least this modern world. Yeah, I own half of it. So you really can't stop it. Like it comes back to the country. It's like, oh, you thought you were daddy. No. Daddy actually is the one with the power. This is just all fictional power. Now what the tables have turned. The tides are shifting. And, money and power can't be so localized and controlled like it used to be. Now there's bigger fish. Here's what it is. You are the biggest fish in your pond. What you didn't realize is that you're just lost in a giant ocean. And now in a globalized world, you used to just be within your own little pond. Now with infinite access to everyone, you have to deal with all the fish, even the ones bigger than you. And you're now realizing how much bigger those other fish are and how many of them there really are. You thought it was just the United States. Oh, no. We've got big sized asshole fish that just are citizens of this giant fish, and they'll come for you too. And they have their own agendas and wills. Well, so before we go down this further, Pickle Gallery, you guys, any thoughts? Silence? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating when a billionaire can basically just skirt international law or the law of a country and just kind of do whatever he wants at the end of the day. It's very interesting, but it also goes to show you that a lot of these billionaires have so much power because, as you said, they literally make more money than an entire country's GDP combined, or like an entire continent in this case combined, you know? So yeah, I think it's very fascinating, but why Elon bought X/Twitter is starting to make more and more sense with each passing day, I think. And it's becoming more and more obvious why he did it. And I think it's just, it's one of those things that you like, it doesn't really make sense. But as time kind of goes on, it starts to like, the pieces of the puzzle start to sort of come together, and then you're like, oh, so that's why he did that, you know, or oh, that's why he's launching satellites into space, you know. And this is not his first time doing this too, right? He's obviously used the satellites to help Ukraine before, and he's got a plan, right? Elon's got a plan, and now we're slowly kind of starting to see why he's been doing all of these like crazy, outlandish, outrageous sort of moves that he's been doing for the past like 5, 6, 7 years.
Totally. Ricky, any thoughts?
Silent pretty much said anything. Only thing I really got to say is in Elon I trust, because he hasn't done anything so far to take away my trust in the public space. I don't know what he does behind closed doors, but in the public space, he hasn't done anything that I'm against. So in Elon I trust. All right.
I can appreciate that. Doug, what do you think?
I think it's a baller move taking on Brazil. And first of all, like Silence, like it's a country, you know, I think it's crazy. He has the power to take them on. Well, it's also Brazil. I mean, they're one step above a developing country. So not surprising that Elon Musk has more resources at his disposal than Brazil. I mean, the dude owns satellites. How many satellites does Brazil own?
That's what I mean. And I was trying to say it delicately. You just said it carte blanche. Like, straight up, Elon definitely has more satellites than Brazil. We can agree on that, right? Like, does anybody know the net worth of Brazil's space program?
They have a space program?
No, it's the beach. It's just coconuts on the beach. That's their space program. Okay. Here's an interesting position on this whole Elon Musk thing. One thing that we've danced around quite a bit on the show the last few months now is his continuous adverse position against governments and them trying to intervene in this social space and the public square.
He's fighting for free speech, man.
But that all being said, I like Silent's point, which is you're seeing more and more the overarching plan, and you're seeing kind of how deep being a world genius goes. We don't see 4D chess. So we really can't see the 4 steps ahead. His investment into Twitter with $1 billion loss or $50 billion loss or whatever it is. We don't even know why or what that looks like, what its purpose looks like. That's beyond us. But that's because we don't even know how to play that game. We're playing regular chess. He's playing 4D chess. But I find that to be an interesting point, Silent, because there is clearly a plan. And with whatever every step of the way, he's being confronted by world powers. So one, he exposes to the American public how the American government intervened with elections, American public will, and perception for years at the cooperation of Twitter. So he buys that, cuts that cord, makes it public. Like, not only does he stop the corruption, but then he publishes it publicly. This is what I got. Then we've had episodes in the past where Eastern European countries have threatened to jail him if he comes close to their country for not silencing for not cooperating. And then he's responding publicly in tweets saying, yeah, they wanted me to silence specific ideologies and I won't cooperate. And so here's another instance where Brazil's like, we're cutting you out entirely. And he's like, you literally can't. Like, you literally don't have the technology to turn off my airwaves.
Space. His company's called SpaceX. Bitch, he owns space.
Right.
You can't defeat space.
And I think Brazil and the coconuts are learning that. Like, you can't beat Wi-Fi. And unless you're the one making the Wi-Fi, you have no control here.
He's willing to give internet out for free instead of playing Brazil's game. I mean, that should. Is Brazil willing to wait this long? Are they going to be willing to spend the little money they have, like, to fight this? Because I guarantee you, he can outlast them. He can outlast Brazil's fight.
Here's what I could tell you. Let's say Kim Jong-un starved all of his people to the high heavens just enough to afford the ability to broadcast propaganda into America. There is technology that if America needed it to, they'd be able to stop broadcasts into here, whether it's access to an application, whether it's, again, of television, radio, whatever, streaming, broadcast, whatever it is, there's technology out there to stop it. So this comes
Russia
back
has
to
that technology,
right, and they do stop it. So again, be like Russia. Either be big enough of a fish in the sea to stop the bigger fish from controlling or overpowering you, or figure out ways to work with it. Elon Musk seems like a pretty cooperative guy. Like, just don't be a crooked dictator and he'll probably work with you. So the bigger thing is, if he's a bigger fish and he's able to accomplish this, someone would tell me you'd get more out of him if you worked with him versus trying to adversely fight him. So I find this to be a noteworthy topic worth addressing today, because like Doug shouts, he owns space. You can't beat owning space. And it's like, there's something really cool about a country. Like, imagine being a little baby dictator when like iPhones didn't exist. And they're like watching dad cut tongues out and, you know, like Caesar thumbs down in folks and everything else. And son, this will be yours one day, total power. And then one day those assholes get iPhones. And it's like, who told them they could have opinions and thoughts and start thinking against us? And like, imagine just watch, like, that happened across time, right? Like, paper started being invented and like, stop that. Stop paper. Because now everybody's getting easier access to information. It's almost like the more access to information, the less power they have. So
Like China.
Yeah.
China just come up with everything. Like, they have their own WhatsApp, Facebook. If Brazil want to go down that path, they go down that path. Like, don't complain to Elon. Just fix the problem if y'all want to, censor y'all people.
Well, where China gets that, they get that benefit because they got the dinero, right? Like, you got to have the money to make a Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, Brazil can produce some more cows. Because they sell a lot of beef. They're one of the leading producers of beef. Well, get them cattle's up.
Ricky's right. And, China has done one of the topics we really haven't broken down on the show ever is how China, David's touched upon it a bit, but China is really taking over Africa through investments and resource provision. They're taking over so many territories within Africa. So again, Brazil, if you want to kind of have that totalitarian control, it comes at a cost. You can look at somebody like China and be like, hey, can you pay Facebook or Twitter to comply? Twitter, Elon's not going to comply, but just for the sake of theory, you could go to somebody like China and be like, hey, can you help us get Facebook to comply? They're saying we don't have enough leverage or money to do it. And China would be like, yes, but now, we own you. Not literally, just, we're going to let you be Brazil. We're going to let you be the leader. You're going to be the face of your, and generationally, you'll get to continue to keep it within your bloodline. But just know where the authority truly lies. You have signed on the dotted line, sold your soul to the devil. I can provide you what you need. It just comes at a cost. So again, you could go, you know what? I'm going to forego that cost. Son of a bitch. That just means my place is going to have a little bit more freedom. Folks are going to have better access to information. I'm not going to be able to cut their ants' tongues out anymore. I guess I'm going to have to be a more healthy, better moral society. I mean, again, the only benefit from them trying to stick it out and keeping these people, allowing them to have access, is the benefit of globalism and a more healthy society. Otherwise, they'll sell themselves to a bigger country and they'll be able to keep the control, but that comes at a cost, and how much longevity is really in there. I don't know. Rapid thoughts. Silent, what do you think of this whole deal?
Yeah, I think, as we said before, this is just kind of slowly showing us Elon's 4D chess plan, as you said, and it's slowly revealing it to us, like why he bought Twitter and why he's been launching satellites into space.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in the age of the internet, there's nothing that you can really block. Like, look at China. YouTube is blocked there. Facebook is blocked there. But you could literally just turn on a VPN and access it anyways. So as much as the Brazilian government wants to try to block Twitter or X or YouTube or whatever, or any other website, at the end of the day, there's always going to be ways in where citizens are just going to find a way around it. Because the internet is and always will be accessible to anybody that wants to access the websites that they want to access, no matter what the website is.
So true. So true. Ricky, rapid thoughts.
So maybe this Brazil get their GDP up by the $6,000 fine. And I don't know the total of people that use Twitter in Brazil. So let's just say 1 million. You know what I mean? And 1 million of them get fined. They be up a couple mil. So maybe they decide to get a new satellite in space or something. But hey, in Elon, I trust, man.
That's fair. That's fair. It's funny, as we were breaking this whole dialogue down, it's like, yeah, I could agree, in Elon we trust, but also I don't really like.
He wasn't elected, so I don't
Exactly.
like his amount of power in America. I like him taking on Brazil.
No,
but
hold on. Not even just the power in America, dude. The power in the world. That like silence point of like, he's playing 4D chess, we can't even see it, and it's kind of like we didn't realize he literally owns everything around us. Like, if he just has been slowly throwing satellites up in the air, then he convinced it. Like, let's just say, now just political theory here. Let's say you've got one political party that's just a bunch of lemmings, and then you have one political party that you need to make morally corrupt because they're the party that tends to attract the thinkers. Okay, so what would be of a benefit? If you were a Trojan horse, you'd probably want to pander to the thinkers, because if you can make them think you're on your side, you're on their side, they're going to kind of just let you right in, like the Trojan horse. Like, oh, you're one of us. Come on. Yeah. Oh my God. He is a crusader for our war, our fight, this social battle. He's on our side. And so not only do they let you in, but they champion you. And the thing that I just can't get over, dude, it just always looms over my head, is why for the last 4 years has this profile picture been him with a war suit armored with Baphomet on the chest? So like, to me, it's like, if you've just been slowly throwing satellites in the sky, and it's like, yeah, because then like, I really don't need to even deal with your governments. Your governments won't matter when I can just turn my internet on, and I can just and I can control things. The spaceship side of things, like, why is his space development farther than all of us? Doug has a whole diatribe about how we got rid of the space shuttle, and here's a guy that's like, oh, no, and I'm landing them. Like, he's playing a whole nother game. One day he'll have all the cars. He's developing not only internet networks, but transportation networks, underground tunnels.
Human brain networks,
Doug. Oh my God.
That's why I said that's okay. Maybe that's
Dude,
the only
we let
thing.
the devil in. in
Maybe that's the
Elon
only
Musk.
thing
You're crazy.
I freaking don't like that he did was the Neuralink. Maybe that was the only spec. But other than that, in the public forum, he ain't done nothing I was too much
Too
to
late
get.
now. Ricky
Yeah,
has
I-
signed up to put a chip in his brain.
Oh,
You guys
hell
heard
no.
it here
coming.
too.
It's
Oh,
coming.
nah. We ain't playing that game, boy. We ain't doing that.
So, wrapping it up for myself, I think right now, here's what I don't necessarily trust that he is a good actor in terms of this spiritual war we're fighting. I truly don't. But I do think where all of our agendas sit currently, we are in stride with each other. We are within the same stream of and momentum. But that isn't to say this is a momentum he wouldn't potentially be trying to use or weaponize against us down the line. Who knows what to make of it? What I do make of it currently is it does seem that our interests currently align. Those things can change, but guess what? In terms of politics, I'll blindly throw my faith in Tulsi Gabbard. Somebody that stands in line with her or someone I would support is RFK Jr. If they're all standing in the same political realm, marching with Elon Musk, and all this guy has done is say things I agree with. Like, I will not be coerced and manipulated by Apple ads. Holy shit. Okay. Oh my God. Like, every step of the way, he's been in stride with me, and he will and still does and can continue to have my support. But like any free thinker, you can't get blindly lost in that current. And you have to also just keep in mind, too, the current can change. And as of now, we're in the same direction. But at some point, our motivations or directions may change. And you don't want to get lost in that and lose track of it to where you can't keep track of it. All right, Doug, wrapping thought.
If Brazil wants to take on SpaceX, they're going to need to work on their jamming capabilities, which means maybe they'll get closer relations with Russia. Because they've successfully have jammed SpaceX in Ukraine. So
really,
yeah.
Why would they do that?
Because Ukraine is using it to pilot their unmanned drones and stuff.
Elon
Musk actually tried to stop it until the U.S. government forced them to reactivate it and is paying SpaceX for Ukraine to use it.
Brazil, take note, you dirty. Money talks. Money talks. Even Elon's like, all right, I'll stay out of Ukraine. They're paying me enough money to shut up. So, like, again, just have enough money to tell them to shut up. You don't. So know your place in the pecking order. What's that?
I said more cows. Time to sell more cows, as Ricky said.
We need more cowbell.
Beach bikinis. Isn't that really the only thing they got?
Yo,
I don't know.
and if Biden and Harris is paying him, right, and he's against Biden and Harris, that should say something.
Well, hey, you should vote for them now because they can fix it. I mean, they as they ignore the fact that they haven't done it yet, but they would.
Had 4 years, but
hey, we had 4 years, yeah. But vote for us next time. We'll do it next time.
All right, Brian, wrap it up for us.
I don't know. I'm hoping that Elon is going to use it for the powers that he's been kind of using it. Freedom of speech, keeping that alive. And I'd like to think that he just woke up in the morning. He's like, oh, yeah, get Brazil back, X. I don't know why they would do that, but I don't really care. Just give it all to them.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Again, the whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved. So we appreciate you all making it this far. If you joined it this far, the best thing you can do to support the show and what we're bringing you each week is share this episode. Make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, do all the deets so you don't miss another one. But like I said, if you liked it, that means someone else you would too. So the best you could do is share this episode, take that link and spread it around because it helps us with the algorithms. But otherwise, guys, we go live every week at 7 p.m. We also have a live show on Sundays, but it's no longer going to be at 9 a.m. We have now moved it. This week is going to be the first week where we kick it off at 11 a.m. We're starting off Sundays at 11 a.m. with Rethink Actions. take a little palate cleanser, take a break with us, kick back on a Sunday and have some laughs where we just react to crazy videos on the internet. But also kicking off this weekend is a brand new segment and show coming your way, the Sunday Football Review.
Football!
Very excited for us to share it with everybody. We're going to have a studio full of friends here to just break down this week's news for football, give you some insights as you're preparing your lineup for fantasy this first week. Come on, you got to beat your friends, but also join us to just be a part of the live dialogue and have some laughs. But if you're wondering where you can find all of it, we've got the podcast, we've got this live show and all these different shows and channels. You can find it at one central place, and that's at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. So again, guys, we appreciate you watching. We go live each week, and be sure to go to the website to catch it all there, but we'll catch you next week. Peace.